Hi everyone. In this video, we are going to learn how to solve a system of linear equations by the cross multiplication method. This is the fourth method. We have already created three other videos for the elimination method, the comparison method, and the substitution method. And this is our fourth video on this series, and this is the cross multiplication method. So in this method, our equations need to look like this. Everything should be on the left hand side, and then on the right hand side we'll keep 0, right? So suppose we have two generic linear equations like this. First equation is a sub 1 times x plus b sub 1 times y plus c sub 1 is equal to 0, and the second equation is a sub 2 times x plus b sub 2 times y plus c sub 2 is equal to 0. So from here we are going to use the elimination method to eliminate one of the unknown variables, because here again our ultimate objective is to find the values of x and y, right? So we are going to use the elimination method, and I have already created a separate video on that. Feel free to watch it. But using the elimination method, we will be first finding the value of x, and then again we will eliminate x and we will find the value of y. So now to eliminate y, first we want to eliminate y. So to eliminate y, somehow we have to make the coefficient of y same, but here you see the coefficient of y is kind of different. We have in the first equation the coefficient is b sub 1, in the second equation it is b sub 2. So if we have to make them equal, we can multiply the first equation by b sub 2 and the second equation by b sub 1, then we will have the coefficient of y as b sub 1 and b sub 2, right? So let's see how that's going to look like. So from here we can say, okay, if we multiply the first equation, so I'm going to write down the operation right here. So first equation multiplied by b sub 2, that's what we're going to do. So then our first equation will now look like this: a sub 1 and b sub 2 times x, because we're going to multiply both sides of the first equation by b sub 2, right? So our first equation now will become a sub 1 b sub 2 times x plus b sub 1 and then b sub 2 times y plus then we have b sub 2 and c sub 1 is equal to 0 times b sub 2, that would be 0. So let's call this one as our equation, new equation number 3, and then we are going to multiply the original equation 2, the second equation, we are going to multiply that by b sub 1, and let's see what happens. So if we multiply the second equation by b sub 1, then our first term will be a sub 2 and then b sub 1 times x plus it would be b sub 1 and b sub 2 times y plus it would be b sub 1. So it would be b sub 1 times c sub 2 is equal to 0. I mean 0 times b sub 1, that is 0. And let's say this is our new equation number 4. And from here we are going to now subtract equation number 4 from equation number 3. And let's do the subtraction right here. So let me scroll down a little bit. And if we subtract it right here, so now our operation here is equation number 3. So I'm going to write it down here, equation number 3 minus equation number 4. So let's do the subtraction and see what happens. And if we do the subtraction, we'll see that the y terms will disappear. It will vanish actually, right? So from here we are going to get a sub 1 b sub 2 times x minus, meaning right here the sign will change. This will become negative, this will become negative, and this becomes negative, right? So a sub 1 b sub 2 times x minus a sub 2 and then b sub 1 times x. And then if you carefully look at it, these two terms will cancel each other, because first one is positive and the second one is now negative, because we are doing a subtraction here. So these two terms will cancel each other. That means you see the y term now vanished. And then we are now left with the bc terms here. So let's write them down. So the first one will be positive b sub 2 c sub 1 minus b sub 1 c sub 2. And all of that is equal to 0, because on the right hand side if you do 0 minus 0, that is also equal to 0. So then let's call this one as our new equation number 5. So from this equation number 5, we are going to do a little more simplification, and we are going to see how that looks like. So if we simplify a little more, now from these two terms, from the first two terms, you can see we have x as a common factor. So if we say, okay, so the first term is a sub 1 and b sub 2, and then minus a sub 2 and b sub 1 times x, because x is a common factor between the first two terms, and then we have plus b sub 2 c sub 1 minus b sub 1 c sub 2 is equal to 0. And from here we can say, okay, a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1 times x is equal to, let's bring this two terms, like the second parenthesis, let's bring that to the right hand side. So that will become negative. So this will become negative of this thing, negative of b sub 2 c sub 1 minus b sub 1 c sub 2. We are going to now remove the negative sign on the right hand side term. So left hand side will stay as is. So we are going to write it as a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1 times x is equal to, now here if we remove the parenthesis, you see that b sub 1 c sub 2 will become positive, and then b sub 2 c sub 1 will become negative. So now I am going to rearrange it like this. I am going to write the positive one first. So if we remove the parenthesis, then we have b sub 1 c sub 2 as the positive term, and then the negative term will be b sub 2 and c sub 1. From here we can say that x is equal to, so now we are going to write x is equal to, now we are going to bring this a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1, we are going to bring that to the right hand side. We are going to transpose that, right? So on the right hand side we already have b sub 1 c sub 2 minus b sub 2 c sub 1, and we are going to bring the coefficient of x, which is a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 and b sub 1. So now this is the value of x in terms of the coefficients. You see there is no y or anything on the right hand side of this value of x that we just calculated. So this is the value of x. Now I'm going to highlight this, that this is the value of x. Now let's try the same elimination method to calculate the value of y. So we are going to take a similar approach, but this time we are going to somehow eliminate x so that we can find the value of y. So let's go back to our original two equations here. Now this time we want to eliminate x. So somehow we have to make the coefficient of x same between the two equations, right? In the first equation we have a sub 1 as the coefficient, in the second equation we have a sub 2 as the coefficient, and we need to somehow make them equal. So I'm thinking, if we multiply the first equation by a sub 2 and if we multiply the second equation by a sub 1, then the coefficient of x will become equal between the two new equations, right? So let's try that now. So I'm going to write down the equations first and then we'll do the operations, right? So let me first note down the equations again, and now we're going to multiply equation number 1 by a sub 2, and then we'll see what we get. So if we multiply the first equation by a sub 2, our first term will be a sub 1 a sub 2 times x plus a sub 2 b sub 1 times y plus c sub 1 a sub 2 is equal to 0. And then similarly, if we multiply our second equation, so we are going to multiply our second equation by a sub 1, and from there we are going to get a sub 1 a sub 2 times x plus a sub 1 b sub 2 times y plus c sub 2 times a sub 1, and all of that is equal to 0. So now these are our two new equations. So let's say this is our equation 6, our new equation number 6, new equation number 6, and new equation number 7. And now what we are going to do, we are going to subtract equation number 7 from equation number 6. So if we say equation number 6 minus equation number 7, by doing that what we are going to get? So now let's do this subtraction right here. And you see the sign is going to change. So for the x term on the second equation, the sign will change to negative. Here also it will change to negative. Here also it will change to negative. So now if we do the algebraic additions, you will see that this is going to cancel each other. So the x term now vanishes, and we are going to be left with just the y term and the c and a term, right? So now let's write down here. So after the subtraction, we are going to get that a sub 2 b sub 1 times y minus a sub 1 b sub 2 times y, and then plus we have the c and a terms also here. So it would be c sub 1 a sub 2 minus c sub 2 a sub 1. All of that is equal to 0. That's the result of our subtraction. And if we simplify this little more, then we can say, okay, we have y as a common factor between these two terms. So we are going to take that as a common factor out. So we are going to be left with a sub 2 b sub 1 minus a sub 1 b sub 2 times y, and then plus we have c sub 1 a sub 2 minus c sub 2 a sub 1. All of this is equal to 0. And let's simplify a little more to find the value of y here. So from here we can say, okay, so a sub 2 b sub 1 minus a sub 1 b sub 2 times y is equal to negative of this thing. We are going to bring this to the right hand side, so that becomes negative of c sub 1 a sub 2 minus c sub 2 a sub 1. Now from here we can say, okay, so value of y will be negative of c sub 1 a sub 2 minus c sub 2 a sub 1 all divided by a sub 2 b sub 1 minus a sub 1 b sub 2. Now if we multiply both the numerator and the denominator by negative 1, then this will become, so let's simplify this little more. Now we are going to multiply by negative 1 on both the numerator and the denominator. So the numerator becomes positive, so that will be positive c sub 1 a sub 2 minus c sub 2 a sub 1. So that's essentially does not change, only the negative sign disappears. In the denominator, you see it will be negative of whatever we had, a sub 2 b sub 1 minus a sub 1 b sub 2, which can be simplified to c sub 1 a sub 2 minus c sub 2 a sub 1 whole divided by, now a sub 1 b sub 2 will become positive and a sub 2 b sub 1 will become negative. So I am going to first write a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1. So this is the new value of y. So I am just simply going to write it here, y is equal to that, right? And then let me highlight this. And now from both the values, if you carefully notice, we have x is equal to b sub 1 c sub 2 minus b sub 2 c sub 1 whole divided by a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1, right? So if you look at the denominator of both the values, meaning the value of x and value of y, if you look at the denominator, you see that there is a common term. So what we can say, that let's now try to write the value of x and y again. So I'm going to write the value of x here again. So value of x is equal to b sub 1 c sub 2 b sub 1 c sub 2 minus b sub 2 c sub 1 whole divided by a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1. Now carefully look at the values of x and y, right? You will see that their denominator looks identical for both x and y. You see the denominator is a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1. Only difference is in the numerator. For x we have b sub 1 c sub 2 minus b sub 2 c sub 1. For y we have c sub 1 a sub 2 minus c sub 2 times a sub 1, right? So from here, let's try to write it like this. So from here we can say x divided by b sub 1 c sub 2 minus b sub 2 c sub 1 is equal to 1 divided by whatever was the denominator originally, which is a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1. So this is now one other new picture that we are able to create, and let's keep this because now we are going to do a similar thing for the y also, and then we will come up with a very generic formula here. So now for y, what we are going to do? For y also, let's try to do a similar thing here. So here we can say y divided by c sub 1 a sub 2 minus c sub 2 a sub 1 is equal to 1 divided by a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1. And then from here we can clearly see from these two new red boxes, we can clearly see that both of the left sides are equal to the right side, right? See, the right hand side is same for both of them. So from here we can say, we can talk about a very generic formation here. We can say that x divided by b sub 1 c sub 2 minus b sub 2 c sub 1 is equal to y divided by c sub 1 a sub 2 minus c sub 2 a sub 1, and all of them is equal to 1 divided by a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1. If you carefully look at it, you will see that each one of them is actually equal to 1 over a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1, right? So we can come up with this very generic formula like this to solve for x and y. Well, ultimately you are going to use the other formula to find the value of x and y, which is, when I say other formula, which are like this one and this one, you are going to use those two. But for cross multiplication, we can easily come up with a picture like this, and this picture is very interesting because I'm now going to show you how to form this picture. So now let me go to the top and I'm going to show you how to form this picture. Let me write down the original equations again. And now if we isolate the coefficients and if we write them like this, a sub 1, then b sub 1 and c sub 1, coefficient and the constant terms of course, and similarly we have a sub 2, b sub 2 and c sub 2. So when calculating the value of x, it will be x divided by, now we are going to avoid the coefficient of x and we are going to focus on the other coefficients, right? Other coefficient and the constant term. So that will be, we are going to multiply b sub 1 and c sub 2. That will be the first multiplication. So we are going to say it would be b sub 1 c sub 2 minus, we are going to multiply this other two. So that is why we call them cross multiplication. You see how you are doing the cross multiplication. First we multiply b sub 1 with c sub 2 minus b sub 2 times c sub 1. So minus, it would be b sub 2 times c sub 1. So that is first part of the picture, and that is equal to, now let's say this is also equal to y divided by, now when we are talking about y, we want to avoid the coefficients of y. So then what happens? Then it will be, actually I should have written another set of a sub 1 and a sub 2 right here, so that I can show you, like when we are talking about y, we are trying to determine the denominator, which is y divided by the denominator. So there what we need to do, we need to now do the cross multiplication like this. We are going to avoid the b sub 1 and b sub 2. So now the cross multiplication will be like this. We are going to cross multiply c sub 1 with a sub 2. So it would be c sub 1 times a sub 2 minus, we again going to cross multiply like this, that will be c sub 2 and a sub 1, and all of that is also equal to 1 divided by, now this time we are not talking about the constant term, meaning we are going to avoid the constant term because we are now doing 1 divided by, which is a constant. So for that we are going to avoid the constant or the constant terms, and we are going to do the similar cross multiplication for the coefficients of x and y. So now we are going to first cross multiply a sub 1 with b sub 2. So that will be a sub 1 times b sub 2 minus, then the other cross multiplication will be a sub 2 times b sub 1. So it will be minus a sub 2 times b sub 1. And that is exactly how we come up with this picture. And of course, ultimately you can see that the value of x, if you are asked to find the value of x, then obviously value of x will be b sub 1 c sub 2 minus b sub 2 c sub 1 divided by a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1. So from this picture, again, this picture came from the original values, right? Now I'm going to write down the values again, just in case. So I hope you can clearly see how the cross multiplication works. So it's like, when we are trying to determine the value of x or y, in the denominator, it will always be a picture which is with the coefficient of x and y. That means a sub 1 b sub 2 minus a sub 2 b sub 1. In fact, if you ask me to write it, I'll do it like this. I'll first simply write down the a and the b terms, right? I'll simply write down like this. So a and the b terms minus again a and the b terms, and then I'm going to first do sub 1 sub 2 and then sub 2 sub 1. And then if we are doing x, then obviously it will be the b and c. So let's again write down b and c minus b and c, and then let's use the subscripts, right? So it would be b sub 1 c sub 2. You start with 1 2, then 2 1. Similarly for y also, if I have to find the value of y, we can start writing like this. In their denominator, we always say a and b minus a and b, and we fill in the subscript. Now we start with 1 2 and then 2 1. And similarly in the numerator, because we are now talking about y, so it would be c and the a term. So you start with c a minus c a, and then fill in the subscripts. It would be 1 2 minus 2 1. If you practice it a little more with your notebook, it will definitely make sense. I hope you are able to follow all these steps. Thank you for watching. See you in the next video.